May I have your attention, please? I'd like to recognize Ms. Baker.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight just thanking you for all your blessings on this district, Lord, and on our lives. And I pray for our families, pray for our community, and I pray most of all, Lord, tonight that you give this board wisdom, that we would make the right decisions for everyone involved. And Lord, we just love you. We thank you that you are working on our behalf, and we bless your name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Call this meeting to order. And if you would, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. And again, I'd like to welcome you here tonight and thank you for joining us. Our first item, the chairman's report. I would like to recommend a motion to amend the consent agenda with an extra item.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to amend the agenda for a discussion item of a legal briefing for executive session at the end of the evening.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. We have a motion to amend the agenda for an additional item, which is an executive session for a legal briefing. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 Thank you, Mr. Cawthorn. I would like to announce we do have Mr. Cawthorn joining us by phone tonight. So with that, I would ask for the chairman's report, the consent, which includes the consent agenda, the approval of agenda, approval of minutes for the May 13th, 2024 meeting, the approval of a check registry, and approval of overnight field trips. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Thank you, Ms. Baker, for the motion to approve the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hopper. Any discussion? All those in favor of the approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. And next would be the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to our community and our school board. I did not have plans to have student recognition, but when you have 4 students win state championships at the state track meet, I would be remiss not to recognize them. 3 of them are seniors, so I was kind of afraid once they get gone that we might not be able to work in their schedule. So, Mr. Chairman, if you'll meet with me at the microphone, we'll honor those students. Y'all can look at me and tell that I never won anything with track and field, okay? So this is a special honor. So proud of our student athletes. We're so blessed at Landrum and Chapman to have wonderful student athletes, and the 4 individuals that won these state championships, and 2 are here tonight, represent both of our schools so well. So I would like at this time to honor our track athletes from Chapman High School that won state championships. Our first young man I don't believe is here tonight, but I'm going to honor him anyway. We had a student athlete win the 110 meters state championship in 3A. So that means he was the best in 110 meter hurdles, and that was Mr. Shimon Black. Please, a big round of applause for Shimon. And just so y'all know, every time it's my tradition that we started. This is from the school board. Anytime anybody wins a state championship, we're going to recognize them at the school board meeting, but we're also going to give them something from the board. And Shimon And our athletes from Chapman Landrum are going to be getting state championship T-shirts, recognizing their accomplishment. And I don't know if they're like me or not, but from whatever little success I had, if somebody gave me a T-shirt, I still have those. And it's something to keep for a very long time. So we have a certificate and a state championship shirt. The next student athlete who is here tonight that I would love to recognize, and we hate is graduating. We're proud of him, but we hate to see him go. And this young man won the long jump in 3A, and that is Rashawn Cunningham. Sean, come down. Big round of applause. Come on down, Dad. You come down and get a photo. Y'all come on. Mom, come down here too.
Maybe y'all can go to mom.
Thanks, Sean. Congratulations. Now, I would like to recognize Landrum High School, and we had a state champion in the javelin who is with us tonight, and I know where he's going to school, and he couldn't get into Erskine, where I went to, so he applied at MIT. And MIT, although I know on good account that Erskine denied his application, but so his backup plan was MIT. He's an outstanding young man. He's a son of two of our wonderful employees, Miss Lauren Baker and Doc Baker. Very, very proud of Mark. But Mark, come on down. State champion in the javelin. Last but not least, and she couldn't be here tonight, but this young lady also, like Sean and Mark, exemplify what a student athlete is. That's Miss Sydney Price, and she won also in the javelin state championship, but this was the third year in a row. So Miss Sydney, she's going to North Greenville on a softball scholarship. Mom coaches for us and teaches for us in the district. Just real proud of her, but a big round of applause for Miss Sydney Price. And unless any of y'all won state championships I'm not aware of, that concludes my report, and that's the end of our honoring tonight. We could do some throwback championships. Anybody? Anybody? Okay. We'll get you a shirt one.
Yes. Thank you. Congratulations to y'all. And hope you have a wonderful summer. Okay. There's no public participation for tonight's meeting, so that will take us to our personnel report. Dr. Beeson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Personnel report for tonight. I would like to recommend that you approve the retirements that were in your packet effective at the end of the 23-24 school year. This particular person is planning on returning as the working retired.
Thank you, Dr. Beeson. We have a recommendation to accept the resignation in
Retirement.
our packet, the retirement.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry. Thank you. In our packet.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the retirement as provided in our packet.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Any discussion? All those in favor of accepting the retirement in our packet, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to recommend that you approve the resignations that were also included in your packet effective at the end of the 23-24 school year.
Thank you, Dr. Beeson. We have the recommendation to accept the resignations in our packet.
I so move that we.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderford.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Hopper. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, the ayes have it.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that you approve the employments for the 24-25 school year as they appeared in your packet.
Thank you, Dr. Beeson. We have a recommendation to accept the new hires.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the new hires as it presented in our agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. Thank you, Ms. Baker. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Beeson. And our next item, the finance report. Ms. Brady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. All right, so here we are, and we will now have our third reading of the FY 24-25 proposed general fund operating budget. I'm going to briefly do just a summary of what all that's included. I will say there really are no significant changes from the second reading. So let's get started. Okay, so this general fund budget, it is based on the Senate Finance version of the state's FY 24-25 General Appropriations Act, H 5100. It should be noted that this is not the final version of the State General Appropriations Act. The Senate did not concur with the House. The House did not concur with the Senate's changes. Therefore, they are in conference committee. And just a little bit of background on what happened there. The House's original version of the budget allocated about $230 million more dollars in new money to the schools. When the Senate got a hold of it, they found an error in the calculation, which decreased that appropriation by $30 million. So now the school district's allocation was at $200 million, and our portion of that was about $150,000. So we lost about $150,000 from first reading to second reading. At this point in time, we don't know if we will get any more of that back. But I will keep you updated if there are any changes regarding additional state funding. So for FY 24-25, we have total estimated revenues and total proposed expenditures at $63,405,690. Looking at general fund revenues, our revenues increased by 6.9% in comparison to what was budgeted and approved for FY 23-24. You will see those items in that first column. The second column has where I feel like we are projected to land, so there is a small increase there. Most of that increase comes from state revenues. There's a little bit of additional local revenue there as well. And then the proposed column, 24-25, is the summary version of what's in your packet. And again, the total variance from 23-24 is a little over $4 million. Same thing with expenditures. The percent increase is 6.9% with the same variance, an additional $4 million, $71,645. In that first column, you'll see those are the original proposed amounts for FY 23-24. They are really close. for, as far as estimates go, I did not include a column for estimated as of right now because we are not estimated to go over that budget. In fact, we will probably come in a little bit under. Uh-oh, what'd I do? Oh, there is. You know what? The 24, 25, my bad. That should be 63, 405, 690. Okay, some budget highlights. Included in this budget, the state mandates our salary schedules. So every year, the state provides a step increase for all certified teaching staff. And the cost, including the benefits, is about $375,000. Also, in addition, in last year, the state had a 3.7 increase in health insurance benefits, which began January 1, 2024. I'm sorry, I think that's another one. I apologize, I have backwards. So last year, no, is that right? That's right. Okay. All right, that's right. So then 11-point increase is for this year. So last year we had a 3.7 increase. We saw half of that in 23-24. We'll see the other half in 24-25. And then we have another 11.8 increase. This year we'll see half of that for 24-25, and the other half of that will be in 25-26. In addition, we increased teacher salaries based on the state minimum salary scale and county equalization, and that total cost was a little over $1.1 million, included benefits. And also included in this budget is an increase for all other staff, which is all staff except for teaching positions, certified staff, and that cost, including benefits, is right at $1 million. So in this budget, we added 16 and a half positions. We reallocated 18 positions, which means those positions were taken away due to resignations and retirements, and the reallocation is the reallocation of funding. So in total, we added the 16 and a half positions. We also absorbed 4 positions from other funding sources, which is ESSER. So in total, we had 20 and a half positions, but the 18 positions kind of cancels that out. Other increases, we had about $200,000 in increases to our utility costs and property insurance. Included in this budget is the weapons detection for, which is the operational part of the weapons detection for the high schools for regular school day operations. We were able to move about $75,000 from operations to our capital budget. Program tuition costs went up just shy of $90,000. That is the cost to Swofford, McCarthy Tesler, Spartanburg County Alternative School. Student activities, those costs increased a little over $85,000, and $60,000 of that is related to our the athletic trainer contracts. And then we had some other increases, and those are actually in your packet on that summary sheet that kind of breaks out more of that additional $300,000. The next slide is a pie chart, and it kind of it breaks down our objects. I broke these down kind of how we have to report them to the state. And as you can see, salary and fringe account for about 86.5% of our total general fund budget. Just behind that is purchase services at 8.4%, and then supplies is 4.3%, and then the rest of it, is like transfers to support student activities. For purchase services, this gives you an idea of what that makes up those costs. Just right under 25% is tuition cost, again, which is to Swofford, Spartanburg, District 7 for McCarthy Tesler and Spartanburg County Alternative School. 16.4 is to contract services for substitutes. 9.2 is for SRO contracts. We have about 9% in tech and technology subscriptions which support our district, such as Google, things of that nature. Then we have, travel is just about a little less than 2% of our total budget, and that includes daily mileage for teachers moving back and forth to schools. And then you'll see property insurance is about 7.7%, and repairs and maintenance is 7.8%. For supplies and materials, the vast majority of that, about 44% of that, is for utilities, which is our electricity. Right behind that is the school allocations, the general fund allocations that schools can use to support instructional materials in their classrooms. The 12.1% makes up other departments, which would be all of your district office departments. And then you've got, you've got some utilities, some gas utilities, some operational and custodial and ground supplies make up the remainder. Some general fund operating notes. Our current updated estimated current value of an operating meal is about $72,000. That is based on the auditor's most recent report. I did not use the total amount of $75,000 because I'm taking back a percentage of that because we don't collect 100% of the total taxes levied by the auditor. Our current operating millage is 169.8 mils. Primary homeowners, this is just a reminder, they are not subject to school operating taxes if you have a 4% owner-occupied home. We are allowed to raise millage every year, and the current maximum operating millage increase for FY 24-25 was 12.8 mils. This budget proposal does include a 7 mil increase in operating millage. 1 mil is for teacher equalization. We will not see that funding. 3 mils are for the weapons detection at the high school for regular school day operations, and 3 mils are for the implementation of new salary scales for all non-teaching staff. Looking at our debt service budget, we have estimated revenues of just shy of $19 million and total proposed expenditures, which the majority of that is principal and interest. That leaves us a surplus of about $4.8 million. And if you look at revenues in comparison to last year, in comparison with 2024, our revenues are increased about 21%. What accounts for that? We had a rollback year for operations, but debt service is not, they are not subject to rollback. Again, our expenditures, they've gone up, principal and interest. Well, actually, interest went down, but principal has gone up about 16.7% due to upcoming payments on our outstanding debt. This is pretty small, but this kind of gives you an idea of all the long-term debt outstanding that we have. It talks about the interest rate that was issued when it was originally issued, the original issue amount, when it matures, and what's outstanding as of 6/30/24, and what's coming up outstanding in 24/25. Some debt service millage notes. The current value of a debt service mill is about $150,000. Current debt service millage is 74 mills. Again, it was not subject to the rollback. All homeowners, everybody, all homeowners, business owners are subject to school district debt service taxes, and this budget does not include any sort of debt service millage increase. Okay. Do I have any questions or comments from the board?
Well, and now I see that I probably should have asked a lot of these questions from the last meeting, and this one I didn't realize, but thank you, thanks for answering them at the last one.
Yes, ma'am.
Lacey, and to the other board members, and everyone here, I would like to say that I have put a lot of study into this budget. When I first received the first reading, I was very reluctant because last year being a reassessment year, and as you know, the market value went up on your homes. You were reevaluated, but the district administration ended up rolling that millage back 26 mills. That's something that's rarely done. I've never known a school district to do it. You normally roll back, and I did this for 10 years, is the reason I feel like I can speak on it. But it was rolled back, and to the tune of about probably $1.5 million we gave up because we did roll it back. Now, other districts, I'm not sure exactly on the millage of the other school districts, but normally in a reassessment year, you do roll back mills because that's what you should do, but not to the amount that District 1 took what we did. But in doing that, I feel like after I've requested history back to the teacher equalization because I was not here. I wanted to understand that agreement, what that one meal meant. That is a 10-year contract, is my understanding. So we've got 5 more years at least that we will be putting a meal on for the teachers that will remain at the auditor's office. That's gonna happen. That's to keep us competitive, to try to keep our teachers and do what we need to do. Now, in my studies is when I found that looking at the non-support staff, that 3 years out of 7 years, they have not received a cost of living. And when I say a step, depending on what that salary is, that step might be $300 for a year. And where does that go? Taxes, they get nothing. So as I studied, and I'm speaking for myself, this is what I did. I don't know what the other board members did. But I requested additional historical data, and I studied it, and I looked at the non-support staff. And as I was reviewing it, I'm like, this is not right. This district should not be operating off the backs of their support staff, because that's how it made me feel. I felt like, they had not received efforts. Cost of living is going up on everybody, like each of you stated out there. Everybody's being hit with it. So getting back to that, I consider that since we rolled back on operating, and that's the part that homeowners do not pay, but your 6%, your vehicles, your businesses, everybody else pays it. But for this year, when you look at those tax bills, you're gonna see that those taxes are lower than what they were last year. Look at your car taxes, you can tell from that. So I feel like we're gonna have to gain some of that millage back as I reviewed it and do what we need to do for our support staff. And who said something about job descriptions and things like that? I agree with that 100%. Debbie wants to see more information on our, and I agree 100%, because we need to get it right this time. We need to get these non-support people on track, get them on a schedule. So when we're sitting down doing our budget, which I hope we're gonna start in February this year, basically, we're gonna be looking at a schedule that we know we can do 3 proposals, 2%, 3%, 4%, and we know in advance what our staff's gonna cost us. That's 87% of our budget. So I feel like that we have really, as a board, we have got to push towards getting things earlier and looking at things where we've gotten more time and we don't feel pushed. But I feel like because that millage was rolled back, even though it was an excessive amount, I feel like us putting 7 back, we're just gaining a little bit that back. We're really not per se increasing on our operating. But you've got to understand that whole picture, and I don't know if I explained it to you or not, but that's just how I look at it. And I did a lot of research and a lot of reading looking at it. Thank you.
I would just like to say, as a new board member as well, I made no promises, but I also wanted to be conservative in an approach, to do whatever was best for excellence in education for all of our students. And one thing just stuck out in my mind as I was going through the reading the budget, are the 2 requests from teachers. If you remember this on their evaluation or their end of the year thing, is that they wanted improved facilities. They wanted us to improve our facilities. And they wanted clear goals of what the district was doing. To me, I interpreted those clear goals as with they know the step, they know all of the categories that they're in. So we've really got to communicate that with them. Job descriptions, whatever we need to do to be very, very concise and clear with our staff and our goals and our planning. We have got to be very concise, very clear with not just our staff and our teachers, with our community and with the board as well. That's my request. Very reluctantly, I think I agree with Barbara. I feel like we missed an opportunity to gain revenue without increasing the millage. And so it put us in a very uncomfortable position to make an informed decision that we could build upon, I guess you would say. say. And so, we find ourselves doing what is needed for the district now, the current needs of our district to make us healthy. So with that said, I just really want a lot of attention paid to our revenue and expenditure report that I would like to request monthly, and also as a part of the superintendent's report for the public, for us, so that we see that we have not gone over on any line item, that we are within budget, that we are doing exactly what we said that we were gonna do with that budget. I don't think that's too much to ask. My other ask was the 700. I wasn't sure that that was gonna be reallocated into the different objects and functions, but you did clarify that?
Yes.
So that the transparency is just very, very important to me.
Right, and just to kind of give, kind of circle back around of that, there's probably going to be times that you see negatives on those reports, but they're not true negatives. We have internal controls set up, and I'm going to try to explain it so that everybody understands. The school, I'll use the schools as an example. They may get a flat allocation of, let's just say, $50,000. And the state requires us to record expenditures and report on things into multiple function codes, okay? So if we're purchasing things for high school, there's a code for that. If we're purchasing things for special education, there's function codes for that. There's function codes for kindergarten. There's function codes. There's all and so you kind of see where I'm going with this. There's multiple accounts that those have to appropriately be expended in. And so what we have in our new system is called a budget roll-up code. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to use that budget roll-up code, and all those accounts share that total budget, okay? So you've got $50,000 in that one line item to the school, but they can go in and they can spend, in the different categories that they need to spend in, as long as they don't exceed that total budget. And that's the same thing for district office, and that's the majority that's the majority of those negatives that you did see. The other negatives that you saw were related to the December appreciation, and then, of course, with the purchase services with the subs. So what happened there is we put all of that in one line item, but, we had several positions at the district level that we were not able to fill during the year. And so we contracted with Kelly Services to fill those in a long-term sub capacity. And so the money was budgeted in salaries and fringe, but it was expended in the purchase services line items because we could not fill it with an FTE with the district. We had to pay for the service under a contract service. So I say all that to say, there's controls in place that keeps us from going over budget in every department.
Okay, when you're saying like the system, and I
It-
it's like when you're saying you're putting 50,000 out there, okay, as the school's spending it, or I'm going out there and I'm gonna get some supplies, and I'm gonna use that 410 code. I'm gonna assign that code myself. for
Yes.
Supplies.
Yes.
And the reason I know the codes is because I did it for 20 years. Or if it's a purchase service, it would be the school at that level, you're rolling it up, but they have the accounts, and it's their responsibility to put that money. show that
Correct.
money, how they spend it.
Correct. And then what happens at the end of the year, we'll do what's called a budget transfer that takes it from that original line item and moves it to the line items that they were spent. But the system is a hard stop. It will not allow them to overspend their budgets.
You oversee though that they are charging it to the right
We do.
category purchase service.
We do.
Capital
Yes, ma'am.
supplies or whatever.
That's part of what we do up here.
That's a big deal.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have one more thing. I do want to talk to the fund balance
Okay.
as well. Our fund balance, in my opinion, has enough that it allows us to begin some building projects. It's time. We've got to see a plan for some building in District 1. We've experienced growth. We've got to see some progress. And I would just encourage you to present, and I know you may be working on some plans for that, but we have our fund balance is a savings account as well, in my opinion, as the way I look at it.
And you get-
And I would like for us to also make sure that we are walking so tight with this budget that we will have some to transfer over until the fund balance. It looks like now we're just equaling or balancing out, we're just leveling out at zero at the end. Yeah, we have got to be able to do that. That is healthy. No one would run their home like that, and I don't think that we should run our district. We need to make sure that there will be some money that rolls into our fund balance to keep us healthy.
And great points, Wanda. And I will say the last 4 years, 5 years Lacey's been here, every budget she has added to fund balance. Because when she got here, I think we were down to 100,000. And now we're up to 18 million. And just so everybody's clear, that is not 18 million in savings. That is your assets minus your liabilities, okay? So it's not $18 million sitting in a bank. We're in a healthy spot financially, and that's a great thing. So, and Lacey's built this budget with care, and I'm gonna say what I think as well, and I appreciate everybody's thoughts and comments, but I'm gonna say some things as well. I do think we were on point this year with our calendar, with our budget season. This is how we budgeted here the last 5 years. Not saying we're not open to coaching, but we checked with other districts and we weren't behind. We were on the same timeline as everybody else. So I know there's been some concern saying we're behind, but that I don't agree with that. We're exactly on point with what we've been doing under the former administration and now my administration in terms of a budget timeline. We started this in early April. We've had 2.5 months of digesting this, and my phone is open and my door is open, and many of you have taken advantage of that, and I welcome that. So I'm not going to say this was rushed, because I don't agree with that. I don't feel like the budget process was rushed. I felt like we hit it head on just like we do every year. Again, not saying we're not open to coaching, because I am, but and then also we absolutely have a plan. With the building, we just got the building study. We're working on that this summer, and we're going to get that to y'all August or September. So from our last work session on that, we talked about that. So that is coming, because that is very important as well. And Wanda, I love what you said about the goals, because that was something that I heard from our staff survey, to clearly communicate our goals, and we got them. And we will be rolling those out next school year. Y'all got to keep in mind it's a work in progress. I've been here a year, and we are gaining traction, and the surveys were beautiful. I would love for every board member to get a copy of those. All you have to do is ask. I will gladly pass them out to you. The direction of the district is strong, and the staff, I felt, truly is supporting what we're doing and where we're going. Not that it's perfect, but part of those surveys said that I needed to clearly communicate where we're going. Miss Wright and her team, I've shared with them my common sense version of where I want to see us go in District 1. And with that is, I'm all about the bottom line. What can our kids do when they walk across the stage? We had 2 beautiful graduations. Beautiful celebrations of 13 and some of the children 14-year commitment that went to K4. If you did K5, you served 13 years. If you did K4 and D1, you had 14 years. And we celebrated that night, and boy, did we celebrate. And y'all were there, and I appreciate you coming. It was so great. But here's the bottom line. I want our kids to graduate from Landrum and Chapman and go to the military and serve our country if that's their choice. I want military to be an option. I want 2-year school to be an option for our students. Greenville Tech, Spartanburg Community College, wonderful place to receive a skill. 4-year college, of course, we're still going to support that and encourage that. And then just as important, career. I'm so proud of Swofford, and I've shared with y'all with this many times. Sadly, we're turning 250 students down a year at Swofford. Swofford is busting out the seams. We are giving our kids career-ready skills that they are leaving us. So when I talked to Jody and her team, I was like, this is where I want us to go. I'm more interested in what can our kids do than what they know. We've been doing it this way in public school in America for 150 years, and we keep getting the same thing. And I didn't take this job to do the same things we've always done and do multiple choice tests. God help us if we keep giving multiple choice tests, because you're going to keep getting what you've always gotten. So when I met with Jody and her team, I'm like, I want to do something different. I want these kids to have skills. I want them to have logic, reasoning. So we're working with the state. Who knew the state already had a personal pathway with competencies and skills? That sign, if everybody look back to profile the South Carolina graduate at the back of our boardroom, that has competencies and skills. And what Jody and her team have done from listening to my ramblings is they've developed, I believe it's 5 or 6 goal statements on there of where we're going in the next several years of, yes, testing's still important. Yes, it's a measure, but we want to be able to measure what can our kids do when they complete 2nd grade. I think I know one of them's reading comprehension. Jody, what are some of the other competencies?
The competencies are broad, like the profile of the South Carolina graduate. What we've been hearing from like our colleges and especially our careers, folks out there as we come together as a workforce, we've been hearing that our students need soft skills. So, we want to continue to teach the standards. Reading critically is very important. That's one of the competencies, but it goes all the way from reading critically to also knowing how to communicate effectively. And those soft skills that are very important for tomorrow. So those are just 2 examples. There's 12 total, and I look forward to sharing.
So when we roll out next school year, that's going to be my communication to our staff is that's our plan. That's where we're going. Because it's very important, like you said, Wanda, to share what are we doing. And then to a couple other things here that I wrote down that I'm not aware of anybody in our district that doesn't know their job description. I've heard that a couple times tonight. That's news to me. I gave a survey to every staff member, and not one person in the staff put, I don't know what our job is. So that is something I'm welcome to look into, but I'm not sure about that. And then the last thing I want to address is the rollback. And we've talked about this at length. And I don't want to raise taxes. I never want to, I think I'm getting feedback from that.
Sorry.
It's okay. I never want to raise taxes. But I tell you what I'll do. I'll do it where everybody can see it. And I will say, and I'm not going to back off this, we rolled back what Sharon West, the auditor, said to roll back. She said to roll us back 22 mills. Now, there were 5 added. 3 were from the teacher equalization that she added, okay? And then we had a 2 mill mistake on the form, okay? So when you do those 5 plus the 22, that's 27 mills. We roll back because that's what the auditor said would get us back to revenue neutral. Now, in years past, that wasn't done, okay? Could I have signed the form and got 7 mills then and nobody would have known about it? Absolutely. Nobody would have known about it, and we could have just gone on our merry way, and nobody would have probably spoke tonight, okay? And I appreciate the folks that spoke tonight because they're community members, and that is a wonderful thing to get involved and engage, and I respect that a lot. I'm never going to be perfect, not going to claim to be perfect, but I will say I will do things in the light, and I will let the board vote and decide our direction every time. It's not my job to raise millage. That is the board's job, or not to raise it. And I hope our budget passes tonight. I pray it does. I feel like it will, but I understand anybody having questions, and I welcome those, honor those. But I do have to say what I feel as well, that I've stuck to the rollback, and I felt like it was the right thing to do. And I know Mr. Holden mentioned at our last meeting that next time it would be a great idea. Like I said, I'm coachable. Next time, we should probably have a special call meeting in 5 years and let the board decide the rollback at that time. And if I'm still here, and I pray I am, I love it. I love it. That's an advertisement. I love it here. But that's what we would do. And I thought that was a great idea because I just don't feel like I can take that on and sign that form to get millage that the auditor said we didn't need. So I wanted a couple comments with that. And I'll take any questions y'all may have on that.
Can you explain your definition of revenue neutral to me?
Well, it's my understanding that the rollback is to get the district to the revenue with the assessment. Everybody's assessment went up to get the governing body, us in this situation, to where we're not getting more taxes than we should have. We should not have gotten more revenue just because everybody's property. As you saw with the debt collection, What happened? We received more revenue because there's no rollback with that. There's rollback on the operating side. So that got us back to what we should have been even. And we did. We came in this year. Were we any short on last year? Or we were right at, even with that rollback, we were right at what we were supposed to get on last year's budget.
With total collections, we were right, we were technically revenue neutral.
Yeah. So, but now as we look at moving forward, and like what Barbara brought up, that support staff, we can't live without them. Amen. We cannot live without them, and we need them. And 3 out of the last 7 years, they've gotten just a 1% step increase, which Barbara was right. It's $300 or $400. Hard to live off that. And that's why in our last meeting, I proposed to go to bat for our support staff and do a difficult thing of asking the board for a millage increase. So that's why all that was done. But again, I'm doing that where everybody can see it and we all can have input to that. Our support staff, they're hurting. Bread's gone up, milk's gone up, eggs gone up. Zaxby's is at $10 or $11 an entree at Zaxby's. Zaxby's is always my default. I just like to advertise for them. I don't know why. Their chicken is so good. But it is expensive to eat out. So I just want our folks supported. They were so encouraged from our last meeting and got a lot of positive feedback from the schools because the board was so supportive in our last meeting.
I want to say something, but I don't really know what all I want to say. This is our seventh month as a member of the school board. My first experience with a school board. I can run a classroom with the very best of them, but I couldn't after 7 months. And I was in District 1, Campbell Grambling. And I was a new teacher, didn't know, they didn't teach me in college what I really needed to know to be successful. So I'm 7 months old. The first thing I want to say, sir, is thank you for the way that you presented your concerns, and I can tell that you spoke from your heart. And it was uplifting to me. I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel belittled. I didn't feel ignorant. I didn't feel uninformed. I felt, wow, this is a team player right here. I want to thank you for that. Not to say that our other speakers didn't either, but yours touched me because I was in a pretty low frame of mind at that point. So thank you for that. We are volunteers. We don't get a 6-figure salary. We're on Social Security. Excuse me. We're on Social Security. We have children that are struggling to buy homes. Each of my 2 children have 3 children, and they're all in school, be it daycare, kindergarten, or going into middle school. And I watch them not have enough money to make it through the month. And I watch them arrive at our house for childcare eating a chocolate-covered honey bun for breakfast. Pawpaw hits the ceiling. And then I watch them call and ask, can they come for supper? I grew up in the Mill Village. We had nothing, but we had everything that we needed and thought we were rich. We are a bedroom community. I don't think the hot spot's going to pump in a whole lot of dollars to run our schools. Our industry, thanks to somebody in Washington years ago, bye-bye Milliken, and everything's outsourced to a foreign country. How do our people make a living? We don't have businesses to supplement us. We're not like District 5 with BMW and that whole strip on I-85 just pumping in the dollars. And they can get a school every year that they want. And they even share with us. And we say build. Yes, we need to build. We don't have room for what's coming. We don't have room in only one school for any more students or programs. And the night Jason presented the blue rooms, you know, we could end up in the blue rooms. How can we get by without tax increases? We can do away with athletics. We can do away with performing arts and just teach the ABCs, the academic courses, and we'll find that need for money to hit the ground. But athletics and arts and ROTC and yearbook and student government, those are the activities that keep students in school. And when they win a championship or they excel, they want that same feeling and personal recognition, recognize themselves as a success. I was the opposite. I was allowed to drop between the cracks in the public school system because I wasn't affluent. I was from the wrong side of town. I was on the Mill Hill. We were trashed, a lot of people thought. But man, I'd go back there any day, and I live at Links Trine right now. I'd go back to that mill house any day because that's what made me who I am. And one of the gentlemen here in the audience tonight, I remember at a debate, said, "You're a good man. I can tell you're a good man." I won't ever forget that. I'll never forget that. And you're here tonight, and I thank you. I think of that a lot of times. Well, what does all of that have to do with tonight? We're volunteers. We have families. We pay taxes. They go up. How are my thoughts are, how are my children going to make it? Especially with what we've got going on the national level and the state level. And I'm not talking any party. I think you pretty much know if you attended any, not debates, but what we call them, forums. I think you know where I stand. But yet I had a person one time say, "Well, just where do you stand?" And I said, "Well, I believe you was at all the debates. I mean, the forums, and you read where I answered all those questions on the I-form. And you should know where I stand." And that wasn't a pleasant night either. Very unpleasant for me. But I promise you that I have put more thought into tonight and leading up to tonight than in my family and than I ever did in preparing for a career in education, because I realize the amount of money that is needed resulting from requirements constantly changing from the state level, and us being a bedroom community, we don't have resources to draw the big money from to support it and stay up. If we don't do it, we're going to lose teachers because they've got to go because they've got to support their families. Well, and you know, and you said, well, you know, you hope maybe we could find another way to do this. That would be wonderful. But as a public school educator of 36 out of a 40-year period, I've sold millions of world's finest chocolate bars. That's the first thing. God, we'd have to sell a lot of chocolate bars to come up with this money. I mean, I don't know how else we can do it, except it's going to be tax money from me. And I think our history of the last few years shows that it's been very lenient. And
I think it's been once in the last 6 years, Lacey.
For our community.
Tax increase? 10 years.
Has not been overbearing whatsoever. It's been really nice. And we had quiet, peaceful land up here, and now all the developers are coming in, and you everybody keeps their curtains closed, except on the front side of the house. Because 4 feet away, you can look in your bedroom, out your bedroom, into your neighbor's bedroom, and, you know, where are we gonna put these people? Where are we gonna put the students? How are we gonna house them? Are we gonna have to let go of teachers so we can have 40 kids in a classroom with one teacher? That teacher's gonna leave. Get in a room with 40 of them, I don't care what age they are or what academic level they are. There's 40 kids. And listen, they didn't grow up in the times that we grew up. They knew stuff that I didn't learn until the 8th grade. They know it in the 1st and 2nd and 3rd grade. And then I wasn't sure that I knew it then, you know? You know, you just get on the bicycle and ride. So, and somebody will say, well, Gene, you talk too long. But when the bottom line is this, and I said this in the depot up at Landrum, that is a night none of us can ever forget, isn't it, Debbie? Whew, we'll never forget that night. That it's coming whether we like it or not. Or that we're gonna have to cut athletics. Can you imagine when we cut out all these stadium lights at night, how much money we're gonna save? But do we realize how many young people that we're going to cause to drop out of school? And I was all about it, and I think everyone else said, I'm running. Why are you running for the school board? Well, it wasn't to be pushed up in a corner. It was to help students. And I said, students first, and faculty, and then the taxpayer. And we all have to work together and look at that big picture. And then Mr. Holden said something the meeting before last. He was out of the country, I believe, the last meeting. And he said, like, I'm gonna miss the numbers, Mr. Holden, but he said, well, in my situation, if I go to my superiors and said, I need $2 million in the budget because this is what we want to do, and they come back to him and said, I'll give you $1 million, now go work it out. You know, we can be in that predicament. And it was a predicament to be in, because at that point, we have to make decisions as what's going to go. Is it going to be cutting down and sharing an SRO in each school, then that progress that we made? Is it going to be this weapons detection system, which right now, you know, we live in a pretty friendly little community, but all those others that face the fiddler, they thought they were in those safe communities. So we could cut that out, and we can cut out performing arts, concerts, all of that, and we may not have to. Now, don't intend to come across as negative, I promise. I'm saying I understand, because we are all in the boat. And fortunately and unfortunately, oh, congratulations on getting on the board, and then somebody say, or should I say my condolences? Now, isn't that the truth? It is the truth. And I said, well, I hope you're not right there. And but I'm here because I want to be. I'm learning. It has gone fast. I would have liked to seen the budget process, especially for me, to be a little bit longer, where not just talking on the phone, but that we could share as a body together. And I knew when I signed up for this, and if I got elected, that I was making a time commitment. And let me tell you, you try being a marching band director for 36 years. There's more than just playing the fight song on Friday night and at a touchdown. It never, ever stops till 11 o'clock at night. I was worn out before I retired, but I'd go back tomorrow if I could, because I loved it. And my decision is what is best for students. Do our students lag behind? Are they going to fall behind? Is our district going to fall behind? Are our facilities gonna fall apart? And I may be getting a little overboard here, but those are the questions that come to my mind. And then I come to my senses and saying, hey, Gene, you're one that's gonna have to vote for this. So, as far as transparency, I want to see transparency. I'm behind you 100%. I'm not the greatest savviest on a computer, and I have trouble finding things sometimes. But when I do, I call somebody and ask them, tell me how to get to this, because I want to look at this. And I've gone to Dr. Smith with several requests that I thought in my lifetime I would never, ever be asking somebody to give me this information, this confidential. But I needed that in helping me to prepare to make my decision. And it's a scary feeling, because that decision is on our shoulders. And when the axe falls, it's going to fall right here and on nobody else. And a lot of it wasn't even our ideas. But that's just how things work. And right now, I know what my decision is going to be. I think about it. I don't go to sleep till about 4 o'clock, and I can't even sleep now at night. This has been a very, very trying experience for me. And I thank all of you for being here and caring enough to be here and seeing the principals here tonight and the faithful people that come because of their interest in the school district. And we've got to work as a team and realize this is hard times. And I will go ahead and say, if our elected people at the national and state level would do their jobs instead of bickering and bad-mouthing each other all the time, that would help things a lot. We're having to pick up their slack. And we don't have million-dollar bank accounts either. I know I'll end up at the ethics board sooner or later, but so be it. And I just want to say thank you, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderford.
Thank you, Gene. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, may I speak also? I just wanted to clarify one thing with the job descriptions. When I'm speaking of job descriptions, I think I'm speaking of the newly created pay scales. That I really want it to be clear and concise, just as a teacher's step, and what those expectations are for them, and so that, and it's communicated effectively to our staff, so that they know where they stand at every year and every
From a
given-
pay standpoint.
For the pay
Got it.
standpoint, right?
Got it.
I'm sorry that you totally. I think, but along with that, I'm sure you have clear and concise job descriptions in the other sense for them. But where we're going with the pay scales, that we've done the most fair thing for our district. I want to feel confident in that, and I want to feel confident that that has been communicated with our staff, and that they know, you know, every step where they fall. And I just have one last thing, and I promise you, and I just want to commend the administration for everything that you guys prepared for us, because it was amazing to be able, for a new board member trying to figure out the best things to do for our children and for this district, and for answering all our questions. So I really commend Superintendent and Lacey and your team and everybody for putting all this information together. The one thing that did stick out to me, and I just want to say this, is that you said 10 years, so I went back 5 years. Our meals are at 197.2. 5 years. This year we dropped it 169.8. Our administration comes to us and say, hey, we got to do this. We need some help. And they said, we can do this with 7 mil. And so now we're at 176.8, and I know it's a reassessment, I know revenues are greater, and you know, everything is valued a little more, but we still are at 176.8, down from 197.2 over the past 5 years. And I don't know if that's revenue neutral, but it sounds like we're making some progress to meet our community halfway in tax revenue.
Absolutely. That's well said.
On the job descriptions, is there written job descriptions though for
We have,
like,
yeah, we have written job descriptions
for like bookkeepers,
yes.
secretaries and all? Okay, that's, I kinda got lost on that a
Yeah,
little bit.
absolutely. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, make sure, yeah, I know.
But
Sure.
the other thing that, you know, the audience and everybody, and I keep going back to assessment, and Lacey, and you're gonna see this, we've got growth going on right now. We've got all kind of developments going on, but they may not come on the books for 2 to 3 years, right? 2 to 3 years before we start collecting anything. And, so that's what we've got to work against, and so we've got to plan out. Dr. Jim Ray, who was the superintendent of District 3, who is a man that I idled, was probably he's smarter than this man right here, and I didn't think I'd ever find anybody smarter than him, but he is. And, yeah, he's smarter than him.
She doesn't need it more.
We planned a budget 3 years out. The community, everybody knew what we were 3 years out. District 3 was the poorest district in this county. So I know if they can do, and they can tighten up, and they can do, I know District 1 can do, and meet the needs of our community and everything. And do for our children, our staff. And we have the staff and the knowledge that can work through these things. What I'm talking about as far as budget, what y'all did in 3 or 4 months is what I'm saying is I feel like the board needs to be included earlier on, like what you're doing with personnel, where you're finding positions, having a work session early. That's what I'm referencing, is include us in some of that and let us know what you're doing. And then that way, as you know, that's just being transparent to your board.
Sure, and I'm open to share as much as y'all, and I feel like I'm an open book, and I'm willing to share whatever you guys need. I've never not turned out anything, but also say this, and I'm willing to grow and learn. But also I give my staff freedom and direction, and I trust them to go do their job, and I need the same support from the board. Because if we get in the weeds every day, we're not going to move this district forward. And I'm all for accountability, and I crave that, okay? But I cannot call every time a decision has to be made. Y'all have hired me for a purpose, and I want to go do that faithfully and wonderfully. And, you know, if I'm not getting the job done, y'all let me know. I'm happy to grow in any area. And I'm willing to be coached up with this budget. I just wanted to say that I feel like we were on time this year, as we have been. If we need to start a couple weeks early, see, we were waiting for the information from the state. We don't get that till late March. We don't have numbers to deal with, and we did start personnel planning in January. But I will work on better communication. I hope that I've not failed y'all in that way. This is my first go with this. And I'm going off what Lacey has done for several years. And again, we've met budget and done well the last several years. So I'm quite very, very proud of that.
Dr. Smith, I would also like to just personally thank you as well for letting the phone, you have never hesitated to let any one of us call and ask our questions, and I think that that's an admirable trait. Whether we had things as soon as we wanted them or not, you've always had that open door policy for us to call and ask and just validate even if it's the simplest question, you've always been readily available to answer that, and thank you for that.
Thank you. And it's a team, and I get a lot of wisdom from you guys. Y'all point us in the right direction. I love the direction of the board, and I feel like we're going in such a great, and I'm telling you, we are building here in District 1, and we're going to keep moving. We're going to do things for our kids where we're going to have folks come from all over the state, and I hope the country, to see what we're doing. Because when we get this competency skill thing going, it is going to be incredible. And I just appreciate all y'all's support.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to say, and Dr. Smith, that when I first came on the board, which is this is my third year, this is a tremendous amount of information. We did not have that then, and I really appreciate us being involved, and so I do want to thank you for that. I do have a couple of things in light of something that Ms. McDowell said, and Ms. Brady, I don't know if you, and I don't want to steal any of Mr. McCraw's thunder, but can you speak to facilities, some of the facilities things that we may have seen in some of the budget planning versus capital budget and debt services side? And could you just speak to those things, where everything fits?
Oh, sure. Most of the only thing facilities related that's in our general operation is going to be related to utilities and just general repairs and maintenance across the district. So that is the cost. You know, when you see an operations cost and set aside amounts for repairs and maintenance, that's just general stuff that comes out up through the year that we have to prepare for, that we have to have repaired, or we need something for that we can't really necessarily plan for. So that is what is in your general fund budget. And then our debt service budget is what we use, you know, to issue long-term debt. Is what funds, you know, the building of our schools. And we also use what's called 8% debt capacity. And that is what that means is you are allowed to issue short-term debt up to 8% of your total assessed value, less any short-term debt you have outstanding, to help fund small facility needs. And so currently what we use that 8% debt capacity on is to fund our capital program. So we have our general fund operating budget, which is just reoccurring, you know, general maintenance costs, things of that nature. You have your debt service that collects money to for your long-term debt and for your future facility needs. And then you have your capital budget that is paid for through debt service that we use every year to take on bigger projects that, you know, the general fund just can't necessarily pay for. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. And then I just have a couple other questions, and I don't know, is this the time? I guess so. I talked about this at the earlier meeting, so I'm not going to belabor the point, but I know that personnel's, and that's 86% of our budget, and I know not all of this is related to the salary survey that we did for the all other staff, which is outside of the certified staff, but I'm concerned that we don't have information from all of our districts in Spartanburg County and maybe Greenville County as well, because those are our competitors. And I think we would do a disservice if we didn't get this right the first time. It is a large part of our budget, and we do want to get it right. So my concern is that with our new salary bands and new salary structure for all other personnel, that outside of the mandated by the state and our equalization, I want to see us get good data from all of the districts. And that's my concern, is that if we pass the budget, I don't know if we can separate that out, but if we pass the budget, then we also pass that. And I feel like it's incomplete at this point, and would like to see, to make sure that the summary statement from earlier is that to make sure that we're not shortchanging people, or because we just need to do all the legwork. And so I would like to see more complete information on our salary survey to make sure that everybody's where they need to be.
I understand what you're saying, Debbie. The only thing with that is we can collect from all over the place. The bottom line is it gets down to the funding. We can match it up to Greenville. We can't touch Greenville County. So I feel like it's almost pointless to even look. We'll never be able to touch Greenville County. because they increase 10 meals every year without any hesitation. So they've got all this money, the same thing like District 5. District 5 has got all this money. That's the reason they're sharing with us, right?
I
Because
don't
they
think that's
couldn't
any reason not to get the data. Like I said,
know,
we
I'm
may
just
not, with our
saying
fiscal
it's-
constraints, we may not be able to reach to where we need to be,
Well,
but we
there's-
don't know where we need to be clearly unless we gather the data from all of the Spartanburg County, our competitors. Those are our competitors. People can drive to Polk County, they can drive to other Spartanburg County districts, they can drive to Greenville. I think it's important just to know. You can make better decisions with better knowledge, and I just think it's important that if we're gonna do a salary survey, let's do a salary survey. Let's just make it complete.
And Ms. Baker, I would add, like Dr. Smith said, that, you know, it's an ongoing process. That'd be great to have more information, but I wouldn't want it to hold up any progress that we can make as soon as possible. That'd be my concern.
I think for, I definitely don't want to get further behind, but at the same time, at one of the previous meetings we had, I had asked the question about how do we determine who gets what percentage? And, I think maybe for me, I want to make sure that that percentages is set in the right way. Like for someone who is really far behind that pay scale of whatever that median is that we think it should be, they are getting the correct percentage to bring them up to where they need to be versus, and I'm not trying to sound shallow, but if you've got person A and person B, and person A is making $30,000 a year, and person B is making $90,000 a year, I would like to see that percentage make sure that it's distributed, I guess, more in a fair way. And I think maybe based on what you're saying is like getting data. I just want to be careful how we distribute that percentage. And I'd like to see, you know, how do we determine those numbers? Where is that percentage coming from? And how do we come up with that number? I'm not quite clear on how all that is going to work.
Yeah, Lacey, I think you and Trish just speak to how we arrived where we did. With the districts we were able to obtain their information.
I'll start with how we place people on scales. So when we updated these scales, somebody who was on a level 10 did not necessarily go to a level 10 on the new scale, okay? It was, what we did is we looked at all the employees, and we started with the employees who had been with the district a lot, you know, for a long time, okay? Because those employees have been very loyal to the school district. And so if they had been with the district for 25 years, they were put at a level 25. Okay, that was just the easiest, and that was the starting point for the people who had been with the district, who had the most experience as far in that role and with the school district. Newer folk who had not been with the district that long, we looked at how long they were here, and if it was and let's just say they had been here 5 years, and 5 years on that level was at least a 4% increase from where they were last year. We placed them 5 years, but if they were not, we added 4% to their current salary and placed them accordingly. No, nobody's getting less than 4%. So, it's usually more, in the 4 to 5% range at least for the people who have not been here, who have not been with the district longer.
So you sent me something that said that they got 3%.
They're getting a total, the custodians are the only ones who are getting, their total increase is 4.5%.
So it's a step increase plus what you said.
Sure, well, for custodians, yes, ma'am.
But is everybody getting a step increase?
No, the custodian schedule was the only schedule that I did not significantly raise. And there's two reasons for that. One, I ran out of funding. And two, that one, along with the bus schedule, was significantly raised in March 2022. So in March of 2022, we raised the bus schedule to match District 5. We raised our starting rate for the custodial staff significantly. I can get you those amounts. I don't remember exactly what they were. And so that's the only reason why the custodial scale did not get a significant increase. So there's a gap that's got to be, kind of closed in on that schedule for FY 25-26. So the custodians get a 4.5%, but everybody else gets around, they get at least 4%, but for the most part, people are getting, anywhere from 5 to 10%, depending on where you fell on the scale. And it's just based, and that's just the way we did it. That's the methodology. That's the approach we took because that was what we thought was fair. We looked at the salary schedules, we did the reviews, and we kind of made them our own to what we thought, made sense. And how we place people on the scale was just what we consider step one. So.
But you used District 2, District 5, and 6, the data we had.
We did.
That's what the baseline, and I believe took the average of those. Was that right, Dr. Beeson?
For some of the scales, not all of them.
Okay.
So how do we make sure that we are fair across the board if we're?
This was never going to be a one and done deal. Okay. The hope is that as we get growth, we'll get more local revenue, and we'll try to tackle the things that we were not able to. So next year, the hope would be that we can close the gap on the custodial scale. And even look at the people who only got 4% this year. Can we award them a little bit, move them on the scale based on the experience, that they had, prior to coming to District 1? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I guess we were given a range of, like, I thought 4 to 9%, and then we didn't know how that would fall out. But in my mind, I'm thinking inflation, and those folks need to be able to make a living or be able to at least partially make a living. And I'm kind of, I would like to have, it seems like that's a low-hanging fruit and less money to give them, to get them up to par, and the most needed. So if it's a two-step process, could we not let the people who are maybe in the most dire situations to, and I don't want to make it sound like that, but need a complete raising up to where they should be, would those not be a good place to start before we run out of money?
Well, the 10% average was on the district secretary scale. That's just an average. So what's happened there, you have folk that got more than 10%. Okay, so when I say 10%, that's significant.
I hadn't heard of 10% yet. So 4 to 9%.
It was 4 to 10%.
Okay.
And so the district secretary scale, the operations scale, and I believe the nurses scale were the top ones that were in the TAs were the ones that had somewhere in the ballpark of 9 to 10%. Okay, custodians total 4.5. I believe the administration was around 5 or 6. Average. So the ones that, I guess what I'm trying to say is the ones that were the lowest were the ones that got the highest percentage increase.
May I make a, I'm sorry, I think just reflecting on the conversation that Ms. Baker has a point, that there's a potential to be systematic with the approach, which you guys have a system. You did a good job. Thank you very much for what you've done. And it probably didn't get us all the way there, right? We've identified some gaps. We tried to close the gaps with the money we had, with the best knowledge that we had. We're here in June. It's time to approve the budget. I would suggest that we accept the challenge to take a second look at systematic approach. And by the time we get here next year, we have all that ironed out. We have all the gaps identified, and we can make another adjustment in a next year. We can try to close the gap more based on when we have more data. So I agree with Ms. Baker. We should probably have a thorough assessment, even if we have to get some help to get one, And let's lay out what that looks like, identify what the gaps, prioritize, which I know you guys did, but it would be a chance for us to look at that again. But for this year, I think you guys have done a great job. And you've taken the limited resources we have and applied them as fairly as you know how. And I think it would be hard for us to try to manage that in this room today. My recommendation would be that we proceed, and from now till next year, we can work to perfect it and make it even better.
I mean, it has been 7 years since this group of people have been addressed, 7 years, so that's what you're talking about, so, yeah, they got 3 years, they got a little bit of inflation, so, yeah, it's not gonna be, I mean, we could have outsourced it, I guess we could have outsourced it to a company. It's what Spartanburg County does, outsource it, they come in, do job studies, and they come back and tell you what this people are supposed to be making. You know, what's their job descriptions and all that, there's a lot of ways
Yeah,
we
we
can
should
go
still
about
do
it,
that.
but we cannot, as a district, we can't afford to do that. I don't think, because that would be definitely.
Well,
I think-
this is
I
our
think-
first swing at it,
Yes.
and this was, I mean, we've got a HR department of Dr. Beeson and Miss Sweet Sandy. I mean, we've got two folks, and we did not do it perfectly, and I did not lead them perfectly, and I take full responsibility for that. But we did the best we could with what we had, and we will get better. We will improve it. And I don't want to spend the money to outsource it, although that would be the most convenient. But it will be the most costly. We can continue. It's like anything else. This was our first crack at it. I'm just glad we have scales now, and I'm not joking. We've not had scales for everybody.
I think it's a win-win situation. I think for 3 out of the 7 years, our staff has not received a cost of living. They're going to receive a cost of living with this proposed budget. But do I think there's an opportunity for us to perfect the scale so that we make sure that they're fair, so that we make sure that they're clear and concise, and we're taking care of them just like our teachers? Yes, that needs to be an ongoing, continuing
This is just
thing
great
that we do.
feedback for us. This is great feedback, and we can grow from it. And I appreciate it.
What I hear the board saying is we want to do what's right and fair. And what would be awful is if you have someone that works for a district who's a great employee and they're not being fairly recognized and compensated. And we need to correct that if that exists. And it probably does exist. And so we just need to,
Well, some of the secretaries, bookkeepers and all this, that I know personally, they come to me and they're like, the next job that comes open, custodial or maintenance, I'm taking it because they're making no more money than I am. I mean, I love to clean, I love to do this, I'm good, I can knock it out here at 2 o'clock, so that right there, when you're hearing that, that's a problem. That's serious stuff going on there, so.
Yep. So-
We've just gotten behind,
so my thought would, Mr. Chairman, if there was a way, or Dr. Smith, if there was a way to initiate a second look and a formal process to review and go ahead and clarify that and bring the process forward of how we're going to assess and correct. And we can do
Already
that.
had discussions today based off some other discussions about how we can do that.
Yeah, but
We'll get there.
I really appreciate, I didn't get to speak, I'm not gonna say much because our fellow board members have said a lot, and it's good. But I appreciate Ms. Lacy, Ms. Brady, the professionalism, the thoroughness, and I think you've done a great job.
Thank you.
Yep. Ms. Brady, it's a lot of information, and it was presented in an easy-to-understand fashion. It's the most information I've seen and the best presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I can. So, do you want to go? Mine's separate from here. So at this time, we will, administration does recommend that, the board will approve the proposed general fund budget for FY 24-25 with estimated revenues and proposed expenditures at $63,405,690.
Thank you, Ms. Brady. We have a recommendation to approve the budget going forward. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the budget as it's been presented.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Thank you, Mr. Vanderford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the budget as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Ms. Baker. The motion has carried. And now, Mr. McCraw, for some capital budget plan.
All right, so in your board packet, you shared with you last week, you should have gotten the most updated, correct, Ms. Brooks? So instead of going line by item like we've done for several opportunities now, we're just gonna look at the highlighted areas, if you will, with me. Those highlighted areas are the ones that have been changed or updated based on new information that, you know, again, we started this process a couple months ago, so things happen, things change. So I just want to hit those highlights. So you'll see there on page 2, it was in their board packet.
Actually, if you open up.
No. I think we're good. All right, is everybody good? So on page 2, district-wide, you notice the furniture upgrades that we talked about. We had a great team meeting with curriculum and principals to come up with furniture that we're going to have standards district-wide. And I know I mentioned that to y'all when we first talked. So we were able to get some firm pricing on that already. And you'll see there the furniture for the 4K and 5K classroom at Inman Intermediate. You're looking at 2 rooms at $26,000, so that's a total of $52,000. Furniture for those elementary classrooms, there's a 3rd grade at Campobella and a 5th grade at Holly Springs. Each one of those are 17, so you're looking at 34. And then with the help from Ms. Driggers and Mr. Davis at Chapman High School, we were working on possibly needing some high school furniture. They've been able to manipulate some space to not need that high school furniture. So we've been able to impact every 4K classroom with dramatic play centers district-wide. So every single 4K classroom district-wide is going to get dramatic play centers, which that'll be 8 at $6,500 each. The brand new one above that was not included, so that's 9 4K classrooms that we have district-wide, but the 8 existing ones will get new dramatic play for $52,000. I wasn't here, if you remember, Miss Brady presented this the last time. I was supporting my son at state championship. Thanks for giving me that opportunity. But Miss Brady told me that Mr. Vanderford, man of few words, said that $40,000 was a joke. So on instruments, so I increased it by another 20, so maybe we can get 2 more instruments. So, Mr. Vanderford, I'm trying. That's all you ask, right? All right, so here we go. So those are the recent, the highlights there on page 2. Moving to page 3, The DO is the location, the maintenance barn. I've been working diligently, y'all, to get this piece of property graded and our extra building put up. It's just been a whole lot harder than I realized. So that number has not changed, but I highlighted it because I want y'all to understand that I'm going to do everything I can to get this property taken care of, but I can't tell you that I'm going to be able to get it done for 115. We will take it and get the building erected and the concrete pad poured and the grading taken care of as best we can for that price point. And then if something extra is needed, I will come back to you and let you know that.
It's our intention to do as much ourselves as we can.
Correct, yes. Moving on across, one of the things that came up was an elevator repair, possibly at Inman Elementary School. It is being evaluated as we speak to make sure that it's not, when I say that being evaluated, that is the highest possible that we could have to spend to get that elevator up to speed. It works functionally. The labor licensing has certified it. It's not an issue, but they are trying to tell us that we need some upgrades, and I don't know exactly what that means, so Craig and I are both in communication with the group to determine that. But I told him, I said, I'm presenting the capital budget. I need worst case scenario to tell y'all what that amount would be, and they gave me that $65,000 worst case scenario. All right, so those are all the updates that I had to the report that were highlighted in a different color. So I will be happy to entertain any questions. I do want to speak to one item that came up earlier. We were talking about the sewer with Inman and the construction happening beside Chapman High School. If you remember, not all of you on the board, but several months ago now, the school board approved us to negotiate that, and we have, and we are currently waiting to hear back from the developer to receive our payment for the easement that they're going to have to be able to access the sewer. Along with that payment of $114,000, they're going to install a fence where we want it to protect our property from the development. So they're going to do that as well. And then the city of Inman has told us that they will forgive an additional $100,000. So we're going to have $114,000 from the developer, a forgiveness of $100,000 from the city of Inman, and that, along with some fund balance money, we're going to pay off our sewer loan debt to Inman.
And
that-
we owe about $550,000, and we're paying about $2,000 a month right now.
$23.15. It's a burr in my saddle since
Yeah.
I got up
So
here.
this is a big deal. Yeah.
It is the worst deal ever in the history of deals. I did not make it and had no part in making it, but we're going to get out of it. Now, with that being said, me and Mr. Rollins might have differing opinions on the deal, but anyway. But that is in the works now. That is in the works. I talked to the developer. That piece of property has gone through quite the exchanging of hands several times. But my stipulation to them too, I want y'all to hear me clearly in this, which may delay us receiving the $114,000. If they can't get that sewer line installed on our property by August the 9th, completely done off our property by August the 9th, they can't start until after football season. So that's my deal, because we can't have that type of construction going on in the middle of football season, band season at Chapman High School. So I have heard crickets since I gave them that deadline. So we will see how that goes. But the delay is not on us. It is on the developer, and they were waiting to receive their permits from DHEC, the last I heard. But I have met the guy about the fence, and we're in the process of making sure that fence goes where we want it to go to protect our property. So I wanted to shore that up. So, questions? Hopefully not as many as we had earlier.
I'll go first.
Sure.
Okay. So you talked about, I'll start with the fencing. We're purchasing the fence, they're installing it, correct?
No, ma'am.
So the chain link fencing that I see here on the first page.
Yes.
Where is that going?
That would be district-wide in areas where we possibly, the past year we did roughly $100,000 worth of chain link fencing to
Okay.
provide better safety and security at elementary schools, possibly to divide some areas at these high schools, to protect some of those areas as well.
Okay.
So that would just be district-wide depending on where we needed it.
Okay. And then a little bit above that, under tree work, was this your high estimate?
Oh, correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good.
We have several trees at Inman Elementary School that I've mentioned before that are absolutely, we have to send luckily we were able to purchase with capital funds a jetter, a sewer jetting system, so that we don't have to pay Roto-Rooter once a week to come out and jet the sewer system at Inman Elementary School, and it's because of the tree roots. We got to get rid of those trees. It's going to be very expensive because Inman Elementary's courtyard is completely enclosed, and we'll probably have to crane them out.
Okay.
And we also have some very dangerous trees here at the district office. Luckily, most of y'all park on the front. But we have some very serious, that is definitely, high estimate. But
Okay.
if you've had tree work done lately, on big oak trees that are 100+ years old, it's every bit of about $5,000 to $8,000 per tree.
Before we leave that area, can I ask one question?
Sure.
Right in there where it's talking about bathroom partitions,
Mm-hmm.
are those just replacement, or are we kind of upgrading the design? Or
Those will be replacements from metal that we paint and kids scratch off and wear and tear, to some that are larger. We will maybe consolidate 2 small ones to a larger to make it ADA accessibility, which was one of the big reports on the facility study. So it's just going to depend on that individual restroom as to what we're going to do.
Okay, under the summer floor refinishing, how many schools? Is that
We-
every school?
Yes, that is every school. We are
Okay.
currently doing, correct, got to.
Okay.
Now, sometimes some of that comes out of our operational budget that Lacey talked about, taking a big portion of one of those pies. But anytime we can move stuff and can for capital, we do that as well.
Okay.
Before you leave that page, storage building additions, I've talked to Dr. Smith about it because I question, some needed storage for athletics, like the baseball team and all that, on equipment and everything that I know Booster Club's bought and everything. See, for Landrum and Chapman,
Mm-hmm.
where are those buildings gonna go?
The building at Landrum will go where the scoreboard is at the old soccer stadium. In that area, we would pour a pad and we would place probably a 12-by-16 building there. And behind softball scoreboard at Chapman in that area, where it'd be easily accessible to both programs.
I will admit I have a personal interest in that.
Understood? Anybody else, questions on the first page? Second page?
Okay, I'll go again.
Sure.
Okay. The bleacher and goal inspections and servicing. Can you just elaborate a
Yep.
little bit on that?
We have to do that each and every year. The bleachers have to be inspected and serviced. And that includes stationary bleachers like are in your gyms,
Yes.
or your concrete bleachers at
Okay.
baseball, to your movable bleachers that we sometimes use at baseball, softball, middle schools. And then goal inspections are our basketball goals that raise up and down. They have to be inspected and serviced every year.
Okay.
We had a backboard shattered at Landrum High School. We had a brace broken at Landrum High School as well. So these are things that we have to do each and every year.
So this is covering the cost of the actual inspection, right? So you have
It is covering the cost of the inspection
and then the service
and
as well?
some servicing, yes.
Okay. And the HVAC repairs and replacement, which schools
We
are
got them all over.
Oh, all over.
We're going,
Okay.
we're going to which ones need it the most, based on the
Okay.
facility study.
Okay, got it. Perfect.
Before we leave that area, the Honeywell service contract, does that,
Ends this year.
and it's gonna be rebid?
We will
Do y'all-
rebid it, yes,
So do
ma'am.
y'all, do you consider like third-party engineering firms to do that, or is it always through Honeywell? Cause I know they're like top dollar.
No. We will actually put this out for bid.
Okay.
So Honeywell, Johnson Controls,
okay.
there's several different, Waldrop could be involved in that. So we will put that out for bid. Some of it is, yes, ma'am. That is correct, yes. And it also includes some fire panels. I do have an update for you too, segue, fire panels. Remember I came to you several months ago about O.P. Earl? We really talked about Landry Middle School, and I came to you about O.P. Earl. I finally got the drawings, but I don't know if y'all noticed on the calendar, this is one of the shortest summers that we will have. And I made a judgment call. My judgment is I'd rather have a fire alarm that I know is fully functionable without ripping one out and not getting it in before school started. So we're gonna punt, pass and kick. We're gonna go O.P. Earl, but we're gonna wait and do it next summer, okay? Next summer. We can make it till next summer. Yes. Nope. That was the one that was in next. Landry Middle was in first. All right, anybody other questions on that page? I do. Yes.
Why is 16 wireless mics that expensive?
Okay, because they have to plug into our existing sound system. So this is, each year we have, and Casey's sitting back there so he can help me, but each year, you know, or every other year we have a district musical, and I can tell you these performing arts people want mics on every child. Well, we currently don't have that capability, and instead of putting it at Chapman High School and it staying there, that means the only place we could have the district musical would be at Chapman High School. We want to buy a mobile microphone rack that we could move from location to location. You also see in here that New Prospect, we're looking to upgrade their sound system in their gym where they do performances. This could possibly fit into their sound system as well. So it is expensive, but anything to do with those auditoriums are very expensive. And again, that's a guesstimate. All right, y'all know these numbers are very, I try my best, but I can't make any promises.
But you have trained people that are the only ones that deal with that equipment.
We have trained people that should be the only ones to deal with that. But with that being said, I mean, these are student-led performances a lot of times. And these students are involved, Mr. Atkins is involved, but that doesn't mean it's something, you know. These auditoriums are also very old and things are aging out. We just had an issue with a light system at Chapman. We do our very best to guarantee or try to make sure an adult who understands the system is back there. While it may be being ran by a student, that an adult is at least back there to supervise. Any more on that page? Is that just page 2? Oh my gosh. All right, here we go, page 3. Anybody got questions?
Can I ask a question, please?
Since you hadn't asked one tonight, you
But
go
it's
right
gonna
ahead.
it's from the rest of the pages, this last question. Okay.
Oh, well, yeah, let's get this
So,
one over. I'm telling you.
obviously I went and added up each school's, the request here by school.
Okay.
How do you determine the budget on each school or the amount on each school? Is it based on the facility study or like what's the highest, most dire need, or because the numbers vary widely?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. I'm speaking truthfully. I do not look at the number value per school. I do not. There is a reason why. The reason why is where we need it the most. And some schools are much better shape. Landrum and Chapman High School were built at the exact same time. And they snuck out. But I can promise you, Landrum High School is in better shape than Chapman High School. Built at the exact same time. It's just the nature of wear and tear, constructions, and needs. The facility study had a big impact on it, okay? But I do not look at the value. I also meet with the principals each year and talk to them, give me yours, and have them who are in the building every day, all day, rank their greatest need. And they give me these items, and then we go through them. They see it again, just like you guys do. And if they obviously have any questions or concerns that are lingering, they don't mind calling and let me know. But I don't look at the value purposefully, because I think we got to do what's based on need.
Yeah, I was curious as to if there was a certain number that you needed to stay at.
No, ma'am.
Between schools, okay?
And just like I've told y'all from the past, this is what it's got a little bit more each year, or each time y'all seen me. I'll never be able to spend this much money, because there's not enough contractors or supplies to get it done. Yes, ma'am. You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yep.
What's included in the outdoor weight room expansion?
Yes, if you remember when we talked about that weight room expansion several months ago, in meeting, the space is still the same at Chapman and Landrum. We didn't increase the square footage of the room. We changed the equipment styles.
Right.
So, at Chapman, they still got 80 kids. That same square footage room still doesn't necessarily accommodate 80 children. So the outdoor weight room expansion is where we talked about, if you remember, fencing in an area close by the weight room where we can put a sand pit, a turfed area.
I'm thinking sand pit and turf, and I'm looking at that price tag, and I'm going, I don't remember it being that expensive.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. You got to do grading, drainage, all that on top of it.
It's cheaper than building a new weight room. And we lost 4 stations, Jason, or 5 stations? They got 13 now. I think they had, we lost 5 stations, and we didn't want to lose. We don't want the children not to be able to take the class. So it's creating cheaper space for as cost effective as we can.
Anybody else?
One last question.
Yes, ma'am.
Playground mulch installation.
Yep, that
High estimates.
playground mulch.
I think it's on the first page. It's got the mulch and then the installation, and I was just wondering why it's so expensive to have it installed.
Yeah, playground mulch is very expensive because you either have to, number one, you got to purchase it. It's a different type of mulch. We've had this conversation, and right, and I'm gonna explain why. And Mr. Skinner talked about looking at rubber mulch versus wood fiber mulch. Well, with playground mulch, there's 2 ways to do it. It's rent a big truck and blow it in, like literally. It is a vacuum truck, and they blow it in, or you pay people to shovel it in the playground. And truthfully, paying the people to shovel it in the playground, you do it based on yard. Now, they don't shovel every bit of it. They obviously use tractors or bobcats. But I am basing that off of what it cost us per yard in the past. Now, I put that in there, but there's some playgrounds, because we've made a lot of playground upgrades, that are not going to need that much. So we're going to be in better shape than we have been historically.
So that's a high estimate, just in case something.
Ms. Baker, you've heard me stand here plenty of times.
I know, it just seems.
I promise low and deliver high, so I over budget.
Okay.
Nah.
You said promise low and deliver high.
I ain't talking about, y'all thinking money. See, I ain't thinking money. I'm promising low on expectations, but making high expectations. Y'all thinking money. Y'all don't, why's everything gotta be about money in here? Students, faculty. I'm on the boat with you right there, Mr. Vanderford. Let's all row in the same direction. Be the first time in a long time. All right, any more questions?
Just a side comment, there's a house across from our church that one of our members lived in. He passed away, his whole family passed away, and they renovated it. It's about a 900 square foot house. It had a carport on it. They added, closed in the room, carport, made it 1,100 square foot house. Tiny little house on like a 0.25 acre lot. On New Cut Road. How much you think? 1,100 square foot house.
450.
They just renovated, it's got vinyl siding all around. What's that about?
450.
No, well, it's not on the lake. 253,000 for a, it's not, it's half the size of this room here. Yeah, $253,000. I just, if you in the water and you hadn't felt it heat up, things cost a lot more than they.
Correct.
Everywhere you look. Yeah, I was thinking like $90,000.
And I know I heard in the previous conversation, build, build, build. But y'all know that we have been solid in what we're trying to do, and there's a reason behind it. And it stems back from Dr. Garner, now to Dr. Smith. It is a legit. We're not just pushing it over, forgetting about it. We know that. There's a pathway that we are planning to take. But I can tell you now, every district in the upstate, minus maybe District 5 and Greenville County and District 6, are behind right now. We're all behind, and we're going to be behind. But we got to be smart in how we do it, too, because the worst thing for me to ever do to y'all is me and Dr. Smith to come to you and say, all right, we need to build a cafeteria and 8 classrooms at New Prospect, and then 4 years from now we got 3 classrooms sitting empty. How's that going to go over? So we are methodical in what we do. Trust me, we hear it. We got a meeting tomorrow, administration, to talk about it. So we hear the building plan, but I want y'all to know we hadn't forgot it. We see it each and every day. We hear it from these principals, and we trying to make it work. So, I'll just go straight for it before anybody's red light comes on. Mr. Chairman, the administration, specifically Mr. McCraw, is making a recommendation that you guys approve this capital budget, which I'm be honest with you, we never done this till last year. I think this is an excellent idea. I know it's a request of some of y'all, but we ask that you approve the possibility to be able to accomplish as many of these capital items as we can over the next school year.
Yeah.
So you've heard, oh, I'm sorry, you've heard the recommendation?
Yes, trustee chairman, make a recommendation that we approve the possibility to accomplish all the items listed on the capital expenditures for year 24-25 as presented.
Thank you. Mr. McDowell?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderford. We have a motion and a second to approve the capital plan. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Still awake.
Thank. Is there any opposition? Thank you. It's unanimous.
Typically about every other month, I give you a report. You're welcome. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. McCraw. Okay. Okay, with that, brings us to our next item, which is executive session. Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Make a motion, we go into executive session to discuss a legal matter.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Thank you, Ms. Fowler. We have a motion to go into executive session to discuss, for a legal update. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. We're in executive session, and there'll be no action taken later. We want to wish everybody a very good summer, and thank you for being here with us tonight.